Another day, another opportunity. Gotta get them lats loosened up a little bit, or a lot of bit. We may not last long with the fingers. We may have to go across. Today might be a struggle. Front squat is not my strong suit, to say the least. But it is a great exercise for everything that encompasses getting stronger for the mountains, in my humble opinion. This is probably one of my favorite but least favorite exercises to perform. Just because it's so great for your lower body strength, but also your core, your lower back, stability. It's everything you could ask for all in one. But it sucks to do. So today, it's kind of a full body workout, honestly. We're hitting upper and lower. We're front squatting. So it's gonna be mainly push based. We're hitting front squats, and then I'm pairing that with overhead shoulder press. We're gonna work on, today's kind of a shoulder strength, but also a shoulder health day. We do a little mobility, kind of try and work some of those smaller muscles. So we've got 5 sets of 2 front squat, and we've got 5 sets of 3 overhead press. I'm gonna do those back to back. Today is March 14th. It's been just a hair over a month since the last time I videoed. We're still deep into the strength phase. We've got just the rest of this month, really, so just a couple weeks where we're strictly focusing on just building raw strength. Ooh, that's heavy. That's not good on the first set. One of the big things I like to focus on today is my shoulders. We are front squatting, but we are focusing on our shoulder strength, but also just the stability of everything. You know, as a bow hunter, we use our shoulders all the time. You know, we're practicing shooting our bows, you know, pulling an 80-pound bow, you know, hundreds of times a week. Like, that can do a lot of damage and strain on your shoulders. So I like to have one day every week where I just solely focus on just keeping my shoulders in shape. You know, I'm pulling right-handed all the time, so I've got to try and keep, you don't want to get unbalanced on one side when you're pulling all the time with your right arm. So I really like to just focus on trying to keep my shoulders healthy. Outside of the shoulder press, I don't lift heavy with my shoulders. You know, doing little band movements, like small weights, just working on your rotator cuffs. I think that's very crucial in keeping your shoulders healthy. As a bow hunter, that's everything. You've got to have healthy shoulders or you ain't gonna be able to pull a bow. So this route. The biggest thing with front squat is just literally trying to keep the weight stable and not let it come forward. Like, it's not heavy on my legs whatsoever, but you know, your lower back and core, you're fighting, trying to keep that weight from dumping out the front. So you've got to use, literally, you got to use shoulder strength, your abs, your obliques, your lower back, your glutes. You've got to engage everything to keep that weight out front, especially when you have the mobility of a 2x4. I have zero flexibility anywhere, which is why I said in the last video I probably should stretch, but I don't, so. Shizzle my nizzle. Felt that one in the lower back in a good way. That one took it out of me. Holy cow. Now we've got 3 sets of lateral lunges, 3 sets of 6 lateral lunges, and 3 sets of 8 YP dubs on all 3 exercises. The advantage of using a small weight like 5-pound plates is you can really target those small muscles. You're not relying on your larger muscles to get through that exercise. Also, the lateral lunge with a kettlebell is very similar to your front squat because you're having to keep that weight out front. So it's great for your lower back as well as your legs. I like to rotate these 3 exercises too, starting differently. Starting with a different one. So we've got lateral step-ups, we've got 3 sets of 5 each leg, We've got banded dubs and reverse hypers. Also going to use this because I don't have a reverse hyper machine. So we got to work with what we got. On the lateral step ups, it's pretty, I mean, you can make these as easy as you want, like pushing off on this leg, but I really try and focus on just driving off of this leg and just leaving this leg completely out of it. I've really tried to focus on single leg strength throughout this training phase. You know, when you're hiking up a mountain, a lot of times you're on one leg, it seems like most of the time. Whether you're side hilling or climbing over deadfall or having to go over a rock ledge, you know, you're stepping up over something, you're straddling over the top of something. It seems like you're always on a single leg, and you know, it's great to be able to squat 350 pounds on both your legs, but if you have no single leg strength, I mean, you're like a wounded duck in the backcountry. So that's one thing I've really tried to focus on. Probably one of the more underrated aspects of being in the mountains is just your knee health, because you're just pounding on them every single day. So that's why I do lower body movements 2-3 times a week. Stuck around this long, I really appreciate it. You know, I've talked about in our past videos about wanting to share my faith and share the Lord with others. And one quote that I saw this week, and I don't want to screw it up, was, "But what a blessing it is to be tired from doing what God has called us to do." You know, all of us live these crazy, busy lives, and it seems like you can almost never get caught up, whether it's with your family, with your job, you know, maybe your financial situation. You know, I think there's so many little things we take for granted. And I bet many of us are probably in a point in our lives that we once prayed for. You know, I just got married not quite 2 years ago, and we just had our first son. He's not quite 7 months old. And, you know, what a blessing it has been to change our lives completely. You know, we had no responsibilities before that. You know, we had jobs, we had a home to pay for, but when you have a kid, your life changes completely. And changing our lives and changing our routines, changing our daily routines, changing how we go about each day. What a blessing that is. And, I could have took that and ran with it as a negative and been mad about it. Oh, I don't get to do this anymore. Oh, I don't get to do that anymore. But watching our son grow has been one of the greatest blessings that I could ever imagine. I think the main thing that I'm trying to portray from this message is that God is going to make changes in your lives. He's going to provide challenges in your lives. I just want you to remember what a blessing it is for you to be going through those challenges that God has called us to do.